My dear Norman, I don't think I really do know much about jobs except the one I had during the war, and that certainly did not involve any traveling. However, I am not at present in a state in which I am able to concentrate well, for reasons explained in the next paragraph.
The tragic and deliberate discrimination of Alan Matheson Turing later in life due to his homosexuality led to his sudden death, thereby overshadowing his fantastic triumph of a computing system which effectively shortened World War II. Despite the headmaster's assessment that he was the sort of boy who was bound to be a problem for any school or community, Turing displayed remarkable talent, shown by his frequent inventions, such as the fountain pen he created at the age of 11. The first of many tragedies in Turing's life came quickly after he discovered his sexuality, when his close friend Christopher Morcom suddenly died. Despite Turing's emerging feelings, their relationship was strictly platonic. Turing recovered from his friend's tragic death and found solace in his studies at King's College. To the casual observer, Turing was often seen as a quiet, somewhat snobby man, and was almost always described as erratic. His brother John described how Turing would loop a chain through the handle of his coffee mugs and around the bars of his radiator, using a padlock to chain his mugs to it so only he would have access to them. After receiving his undergraduate degree in 1934, Turing pursued a doctorate degree in mathematical logic at the University of Princeton in New Jersey. In Turing's remarkable dissertation on computable numbers with an application to the Einstein-Nunz problem, he explained the basis for his universal Turing machines, essentially leading the reader to a way in which one could theoretically solve the Einstein-Nunz problem. In this essay, he provides an in-depth explanation of his universal Turing machine, explaining that it can solve any solvable problem in a finite amount of time, as any computing machine only has a finite number of configurations available. However, at the climax of his essay, Turing concludes that the Einstein-Nunz problem is impossible to solve, as it asks for an algorithm capable of taking a statement of first-order logic as an input and answering either yes or no. A statement of first-order logic is essentially a predicate and a subject, as found in a sentence, presented as variables in a mathematical expression. For example, the sentence, "I want," could be expressed as a first-order logic statement in the expression p of x. Therefore, "I want" becomes "want of I." So, "I want" has an infinite amount of solutions. Due to the infinite amount of solutions, the Einstein-Nunz problem is unsolvable. A sound explanation such as the one Turing came to upon completion of his essay had never been attempted or published, a triumph unheard of for a man of his age. After receiving his doctorate degree from Princeton in 1938, Turing returned to Cambridge in England. He was soon recruited to the elite team of cryptanalysts working at Bletchley Park to decode Nazi messages. Despite his now secretive and incredibly important work regarding World War II, he became active in the community. He joined the Walton Athletic Club for his love of running and was even in contention for a spot on the British Olympic team. He was also a part of the Ratio Club, a prestigious group of young leading researchers in every field that provided a space for the discussion of their unpublished findings. The machine that Turing was working against, the Enigma, was a machine used by the Nazi military to send coded messages between U-boats and Germany. The Nazis were fully aware that these messages would be intercepted, so messages would be coded using a different code each day. So, a message reading, "Commanding Admiral of Submarines," would be changed to a series of letter code like this. The Enigma was very difficult to decode due to the frequent code changes. Each Enigma operator was issued a key sheet for each month. This was a guide on how to set up the Enigma messages for each day of that month. There are a total of approximately 150 trillion ways of linking letter pairs on an Enigma machine. The only situation in which the letter combinations did not change was punctuation and numbers. A new machine was required to decipher the rapidly changing Enigma codes. Gordon Welchman, a co-worker at Bletchley Park, worked with Turing to create the bomb, inspired by the Polish Bomba machine. The machine weighed upwards of 2,000 pounds and was 7 feet wide and 6 feet tall. The total cost to build the machine was approximately $4 million in today's money. The bomb had the computational power of approximately 36 Enigma machines. Each piece of the bomb containing the wiring of an Enigma was given a possible configuration of letter pairings. All 36 of the wirings run at once, each attempting a different letter pairing in order to decode the messages. The breakthrough came when certain phrases or words would consistently appear in every message sent. This discovery would lead to the bomb successfully deciphering the Enigma code. A typical decoding would work like this. The daily weather forecast would be sent each day, meaning that the word Wettervorhersage, or weather forecast, would appear in each message sent. Using words such as this that would be used frequently to decode the rest of the message, Turing and the other cryptanalysts were able to claim a triumphant victory over the Nazis. During his groundbreaking work with the bomb, Turing met and grew fond of Joan Clark, a fellow cryptanalyst and the only woman at Bletchley Park.
It was a surprise to me when he said, I think his words probably were, would you consider marrying me?
During their time at Bletchley, they grew attached to one another and Turing eventually proposed. However, they were only engaged for a few months as he professed his sexuality to her in fear he would not be a good husband. The attraction, at least for Turing, was intellectually based and not physical. After enabling England to receive, decipher, and translate enemy messages, Turing's machine effectively shortened World War II by at least 2 years. Without the brilliant mind of Turing, thousands more lives would have been lost. After his life-saving assistance in World War II, Turing moved on from Bletchley and continued his research. Perhaps his most well-known and certainly most impactful research came in 1946 with his ACE report. ACE, or Automatic Computing Engine, was a machine that Turing believed would prove artificial intelligence possible. His report was the first time artificial intelligence was discussed as a real possibility, and laid the foundation for modern artificial intelligence. Soon after, Turing would produce the basis for which we test a computing engine's intelligence, the Turing test. The Turing test was developed by Turing in his 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. The test was developed to determine whether or not a machine could truly think. If the test determined that the machine in question could think, it would be considered intelligent. Since its creation in 1950, the Turing test has not been passed. Tragedy struck again in 1952 when Turing admitted to a sexual relationship with Arnold Murray. His confession of a sexual relationship with Murray followed a burglary at his home. While being interviewed by the police, he first acknowledged that he knew the culprit, Arnold Murray, then later admitted to a sexual relationship. Under British law, Turing and Murray were brought to trial on charges of gross indecency on March 31st and were later charged accordingly. Turing pled guilty to the charges, and the court ordered him to take hormone injections for 1 year, designed to reduce libido and discourage homosexual activity. His punishment, in essence, was chemical castration. On June 7, 1954, Turing was found dead in his home by his housekeeper. Upon examination, the cause of death was found to be cyanide poisoning. His death is generally accepted to be a suicide. However, a thorough investigation was never completed. A half-eaten apple found lying near Turing's body was never tested for cyanide, and Turing was notorious for improper storage of chemicals. Those who knew him best were shocked by news of his death, as they all noted how well he had recovered from his injections. Even after his sudden and jarring death, Turing's works and models were used worldwide by nearly everyone. However, due to his conviction and the classified nature of all programs he had worked for in the British government, Turing was all but erased from history, and was nearly unheard of until recently. The first triumph over bias came when the act under which he had been charged, the Buggery Act of 1533, was repealed in 1967. Soon after, in the 1970s, documents detailing the work at Bletchley Park were declassified. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II issued an official pardon for Alan Turing. Today, there are many testaments to the memory of Turing's victory over bias, including several memorials. Alan Turing is a household name thanks to the recent movie, The Imitation Game, and his school stands in Denver, Colorado, named after him, the Turing School of Software and Design. The international recognition he receives now stands in stark contrast to the shame and humiliation given to the war hero and revolutionary mathematician. The world can never be forgiven for its unfair treatment based solely on bias against homosexuals, but Turing's bravery rises above any prejudice still held against him and the tragedy that enveloped him.
I'm afraid that the following syllogism may be used by some in the future. Turing believes machines can think. Turing lies with men. Therefore, machines do not think. Yours in distress, Alan.